important to start from the right perspective. In other words, we don't go into the streets of Brazil, Indiana, and look out at the world and look out at the universe and the events that are coming upon us and see it from the streets of Brazil. We will not see it clearly if we have that perspective. As I said before, America is not the center of the earth. Israel is the center of the earth. And so we must go to the streets of Jerusalem and look out at our world and look out at the events and look out at the universe around us. And only then will clarity begin to come to us. So we understand the first key is that Matthew 24 is a Jewish conversation. It's meant to be seen from a Jewish perspective. Clarity comes when we have that perspective in our heart. Number one, it is a Jewish question. When the disciples asked Jesus, when will you, Messiah, come to this Jewish kingdom? In their mind, it was, when will you establish the kingdom of God that was promised through Abraham? When will you set that whole thing up? It was a Jewish mindset that was the very foundation of the question, when? Jesus spoke of things as he talked there in Matthew 24. He spoke of many things that are going to touch the entire earth. But much of what he said in his answer was very much Israel-centered. He talked in verse number 9 about the fact that they would be persecuted and they would be hated by all nations. Now this, of course, can apply to Christians around the world, but I think very specifically we can see that the Jewish people have been, of all people who have ever lived, the most hated and the most persecuted. Jesus said this, when you see the abomination that makes desolate, that was spoken of in the book of Daniel, that you are to flee to the mountains. Well, that's very much pointed at the Jewish people, as Jesus spoke that there in verse number 15 in Matthew 24. Jesus said to them, don't believe anybody coming and saying, I am the Christ, I am the Messiah. He said there are going to be many Christs come, or many people claiming to be Christ. But there is going to be one coming who will say, I am Christ, I am Messiah, I am the promised one. And Jesus is saying, don't you believe it? He's saying it to the whole world. But because we understand what happens in the last days on the Temple Mount, in the Jewish temple, we understand that he is very specifically saying this to the Jewish people. The book of Daniel taught us that God has a plan, 70 weeks of years, or 490 years. And listen to what it says, Daniel 9:24. 77s are decreed for who? 77s are decreed for your people. Who? The Jewish people. Now it will touch the whole world, but again, he's very much focusing and centering in on the Jewish people. 77s are decreed for your people and what? Your holy city, to finish transgression, to put an end to sin, to atone for wickedness, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. Very much pointed towards the Jewish people. In Daniel chapter 12, it says this, that the angel says, when is all this going to end? When's it going to finish up and complete? In Daniel 12:7, it says, when the power of the holy people, the Jewish people, have been finally broken, all these things will be completed. Matthew 24, all the things that are listed there will touch all around the world. But again, very, very focused on this little nation of Israel. And so we must see all biblical prophecy, all last days prophecy, centered around this nation of Israel. When we do, it brings great clarity to our understanding of the events that are soon to take place.